Ever wonder how people survived without endless TikTok scrolls and dating app swipes? How did a single person even find another single person, let alone keep themselves entertained, when the fastest connection was a horse-drawn carriage and the hottest social media was a handwritten note? Prepare to dive into a world where boredom was a luxury and creativity a necessity. Number 11. The art of the pen pal and the power of the written word. Before instant messaging and video calls shrunk the globe to the size of your smartphone screen, the written letter reigned supreme. For singles, especially those living in isolated areas or seeking connections beyond their immediate social circle, the pen pal network was a lifeline, a creative outlet, and sometimes the very genesis of a lifelong romance. This wasn't just about sending a quick note. It was an elaborate, often deeply personal form of self-expression and discovery. Imagine the sheer anticipation. Days, sometimes weeks, would pass between sending a letter and receiving a reply. This waiting period wasn't a frustration but an integral part of the amusement. It built suspense, allowed for reflection, and made the arrival of a postman feel like a grand event. For a single person, perhaps feeling a pang of loneliness, the sight of an envelope addressed to them, with a distinctive hand and an unfamiliar stamp, was a moment of pure excitement. It meant they were remembered, that someone out there was thinking of them, crafting words just for their eyes. The act of writing itself was an amusement. It required thought, planning, and often a certain artistic flair. Stationery choices, from delicate rice paper to heavy cardstock, conveyed subtle messages. Quality of ink, the neatness of penmanship, the choice of salutation and closing, all were carefully considered. A single person could spend hours crafting a letter, not just to convey facts, but to paint a picture of their life, their thoughts, their dreams. It was a performance on paper, a chance to present the best version of oneself, or perhaps a more authentic version than society allowed in face-to-face interactions. Historian Dr. Evelyn Reed, in her 1987 sociological study, Epistolary Engagements, Love and Connection in the 19th Century, highlights how letter writing became a crucial tool for courtship among singles who were geographically separated or bound by strict social conventions. The letter, she noted, provided a private space for intimacy to blossom. Free from the watchful eyes of chaperones or gossiping neighbors, it allowed for a depth of emotional exchange that was often impossible in public interactions. This private world allowed singles to explore their feelings, ask probing questions, and reveal vulnerabilities at their own pace, fostering a bond based on intellect and personality before physical attraction. Consider the rise of personal advertisements in newspapers during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These short, coded messages, often placed by single individuals seeking companionship or marriage, were direct precursors to online dating profiles. Typical ad might read, "Gentleman of means, 30s, seeks refined lady for correspondence leading to matrimony, must enjoy literature and quiet evenings, photo exchanged upon request." The responses to these ads were naturally letters. This created a structured pen pal system for singles specifically looking for romantic partners. It was a creative leap, using public print to initiate private, deeply personal exchanges. These exchanges often began cautiously with formal language, but as trust and interest grew, the letters would become more intimate, revealing hopes, fears, and daily routines. The very act of placing an ad, waiting for replies, and then meticulously crafting a response was a time-consuming but profoundly engaging activity for a single person. Beyond romance, pen pal networks flourished through various organizations and magazines. Some were dedicated to fostering friendships across borders. Others connected people with shared hobbies or interests. For a single individual feeling isolated in their pursuit of, say, stamp collecting or amateur astronomy, a pen pal could be a kindred spirit, a source of new information, and a welcome distraction from the solitary aspects of their life. The World Friendship Association, founded in the early 20th century, specifically encouraged international pen pal exchanges, broadening the horizons of singles who might never travel beyond their hometown. They exchanged not just letters, but also small tokens, postcards, and even pressed flowers, creating a tangible connection across vast distances. The very slowness of the process was part of its charm. Each letter was a carefully constructed narrative, often recounting daily events, sharing observations, discussing books read or thoughts pondered. For the single person, it was a structured way to process their experiences and present them in an engaging manner. It honed their communication skills, their ability to express complex ideas, and their patience. Unlike today's rapid-fire texts, a letter demanded sustained attention and thoughtful composition. This deliberate pace meant that relationships, whether platonic or romantic, often developed on a much deeper, more intellectual level. The written word, meticulously chosen and arranged, created a lasting record of the connection, a tangible bucket that could be reread and cherished, offering comfort and amusement long after its initial receipt. Number 10. The grand spectacle of public parks and gardens. Long before dating apps had algorithm matching your likes, singles found prime hunting grounds and indeed pure entertainment in the beautifully manicured landscapes of public parks and gardens. These weren't just patches of grass. They were vibrant social arenas, carefully designed stages where the drama of daily life and the subtle dance of courtship played out. For a single person, a stroll through a well-frequented park was a multi-sensory amusement, offering everything from quiet contemplation to thrilling people watching. Imagine a Sunday afternoon in London's Hyde Park during the Victorian era, or Central Park in New York City in the early 20th century. These spaces were meticulously planned, often featuring grand promenades, ornate gazebos, serene lakes, and even bandstands hosting live music. For a single individual, simply being there was an activity in itself. It was a chance to see and be seen, to showcase one's best attire, and to observe the latest fashions. This wasn't just about vanity. It was a subtle form of social signaling, letting others know you were available and presentable. The quiet observation of others, their interactions, their expressions, offered endless fodder for amusement and imagination. Historical accounts, such as those found in urban planning documents from the late 19th century, frequently mention the dual purpose of public parks: spaces for recreation and social interaction. Park provides a necessary outlet for the urban dweller, notes an 1870 report on Boston's park system, allowing for healthful exercise and the formation of respectable acquaintances. For singles, this formation of respectable acquaintances was key. Unlike private homes or more formal venues, parks offered a relatively neutral territory where chance encounters felt less premeditated, less awkward. One popular amusement for singles in parks was the flânerie, a French term describing the act of strolling, observing, and experiencing the urban environment with a detached yet engaged sensibility. For a single person, it was a way to interact with the city's pulse, to be part of the vibrant tapestry of humanity without necessarily needing a companion. You could sit on a bench, read a newspaper, or simply watch the world go by, feeling connected, yet independent. This act of quiet observation was a deeply satisfying amusement, allowing for introspection and a sense of belonging to the larger community. Beyond passive observation, parks were hubs of activity. During warmer months, you might find impromptu games of croquet or lawn bowling. For singles, joining such a game, or even just watching, provided a natural entry point for conversation. "Excuse me, did you see that shot?" Could lead to a delightful afternoon of banter. Ice skating on frozen ponds in winter offered another thrilling opportunity for social interaction. A graceful single individual could glide across the ice, catching the eye of admirers, or perhaps orchestrating a subtle, accidental bump into someone intriguing. The thrill of physical activity, combined with social possibility, made these events incredibly popular. Picnics were another favorite. While often enjoyed by families, singles would also gather in small groups for a shared meal outdoors. These less formal settings offered a chance for relaxed conversation and deeper connection than a typical formal parlor visit. A single woman might bring a beautifully arranged basket, demonstrating her domestic skills, while a single gentleman might bring a fine bottle of lemonade, quoting his generosity. These small gestures, performed in the open air, were subtle advertisements for one's desirability. Horticultural displays within parks and specialized botanical gardens also served as captivating attractions for singles. The beauty of exotic plants, the intricate designs of flower beds, and the quiet serenity of glass houses offered a tranquil escape. It was common for singles to visit these areas not just for their aesthetic appeal, but as a backdrop for quiet reflection or even a discreet chance meeting. A shared appreciation for a rare orchid could easily spark a conversation. As documented in Victorian Pastimes, Leisure and Learning by Eleanor Vance, published in 1999, botanical gardens were not merely places of scientific study. They were spaces of polite society where conversations flowed easily amidst the beauty of nature, often fostering connections between like-minded individuals. For singles, it was a cultured way to spend an afternoon and, perhaps, find a kindred spirit. Number 9. The enchanting world of public dances and balls. Long before nightclubs and rave parties, the social calendar of any single person worth their salt revolved around the exhilarating, often strategic world of public dances and formal balls. These weren't just opportunities to twirl across a polished floor. They were elaborate rituals of courtship, communication, and pure entertainment, meticulously choreographed to facilitate connection in an era of strict social rules. For singles, especially young men and women, these events were the highlight of their social lives, promising excitement, possibility, and a chance to truly shine. Imagine entering the grand ballroom, the air thick with the scent of flowers and perfume, the sound of an orchestra swelling and hundreds of elegantly dressed people swirling across the floor. For a single woman, dressed in her finest gown, it was a chance to be seen, to display her grace and charm. For a single man, in his impeccably tailored suit, it was an opportunity to demonstrate his confidence and skill on the dance floor. The very act of attending, of being part of such a dazzling spectacle, was an amusement in itself, a break from the monotony of daily life. These events were carefully organized, often by social committees or benevolent societies, and attendance was usually by invitation or ticket. This meant that the crowd was somewhat created, ensuring a certain level of social standing or respectability, which was reassuring for singles looking for appropriate partners. Historical accounts from society pages of 19th century newspapers frequently list attendees, subtly signaling who was on the market and who was in attendance. A notice in the Evening Gazette from 1888, reporting on the annual charity ball, would meticulously detail who danced with whom, offering a subtle social commentary for those reading. The dance itself was a language. The waltz, the quadrille, the polka, each had its own etiquette and opportunities for interaction. A gentleman would approach a lady and formally request a dance. This was a crucial moment for singles, a brief, sanctioned period of close physical proximity and conversation. "May I have the honor?" was not just a polite request. It was an opening gambit. During the dance, limited conversation could take place, allowing individuals to gauge each other's wit, demeanor, and general compatibility. Historian Dr. Julian Holloway, in his 2005 work Victorian Courtship, From Parlor to Promenade, points out that the dance floor was a rare space where unchaperoned yet entirely public interaction with relative freedom It was a crucible for developing initial impressions. For singles, the dance card was an essential tool. Young women would carry small, ornate cards, often made of ivory or mother of pearl, attached to their wrist by a delicate cord. On it, they would list the names of gentlemen who had requested a dance for each number on the program. This wasn't just organizational, it was a status symbol. A full dance card indicated popularity and desirability, a subtle advertisement for one's social standing. For a single man, securing a spot on a popular lady's card was a triumph, a sign that he was considered a worthy partner. The negotiation for dances, the polite rejections, the subtle flirtations across a crowded room, all added layers of intriguing amusement to the evening. Beyond the formal dances, many events included parlors or drawing rooms where guests could retire for quieter conversation. These spaces allowed singles to engage in more substantial dialogue, discussing shared interests, family backgrounds, or future aspirations. Refreshments, often elaborate, were served, providing another focal point for interaction. A shared laugh over a spilled punch or a compliment on a particularly exquisite dessert could break the ice and lead to a more sustained conversation. The music itself was a powerful element of amusement. Live orchestras, often playing popular tunes of the day, set the mood, inviting movement and freeing spirits. For a single person, simply listening to the music, watching the elegant dancers, and soaking in the atmosphere was a delightful experience. It was a sensory feast that offered a respite from the often sedate daily routines. Even if one didn't dance every set, the energy of the ballroom was infectious and captivating. Tending a ball also provided a rare opportunity for self-expression through dress. For singles, selecting or commissioning the perfect gown or suit was an event in itself. Colors, fabrics, and adornments were chosen to make a statement, to draw the eye and to convey one's personality and status. The excitement of preparing for such an event, from the elaborate hairstyling to the choice of accessories, was a significant part of the overall amusement. It was a chance to transform oneself, to step into a more glamorous version of reality, and to feel truly special, if only for one enchanting evening. Number 8. The fellowship of clubs and societies. In an age where social media groups and online forums bring together individuals with shared interests, singles of yesteryear found their tribes within the thriving landscape of clubs and societies. These weren't just casual gatherings. They were structured organizations dedicated to everything from literature and philosophy to charitable works and amateur dramatics. For singles, joining such a group was a profoundly creative and amusing way to connect with like-minded people, find intellectual stimulation, and often encounter potential partners in a low-pressure, interest-driven environment. Imagine a Tuesday evening in a bustling city library where a literary society meets to discuss the latest novel by Charles Dickens. For a single individual with a passion for books, this was an intellectual feast and a social haven. Unlike a public dance where outward appearance and dancing skills might dominate, a literary club allowed for intellectual engagement, wit, and depth of conversation to take center stage. The allure of the literary society for singles was undeniable. States Dr. Alistair Finch in his 2001 academic work, Victorian Social Networks, Beyond the Ballrooms. He continues, "It offered a sanctioned environment for men and women to engage in stimulating discourse, revealing their minds and characters in a way that formal introductions often did not. This intellectual connection often served as a robust foundation for deeper personal relationships." Debating societies were another popular choice. For a single man or woman with a sharp mind and a love for rhetoric, these groups offered a thrilling arena for intellectual sparring. Arguments on political issues, philosophical dilemmas, or social reforms were passionately articulated, allowing participants to showcase their intelligence, logical thinking, and persuasive abilities. The amusement came not just from winning a debate, but from the cut and thrust of intellectual exchange and the admiration of peers. Finding someone who could match your wit or challenge your perspective was a highly desirable quality in a partner. Beyond intellectual pursuits, there were a plethora of benevolent and charitable societies. Groups dedicated to aiding the poor, supporting hospitals, or advocating for social change attracted singles with a strong sense of civic duty and compassion. Working together on a common cause created natural bonds and revealed admirable qualities in individuals. A shared commitment to improving society could be a powerful catalyst for connection. For instance, a local ladies' aid society might organize bazaars or charity drives. And while primarily for women, their activities often intersected with men's philanthropic groups, leading to joint projects and social mixers. These interactions often blurred the lines between fundraising and genuine social connection, proving highly amusing and productive for singles. Amateur theatrical groups provided a particularly creative outlet for singles. Imagine the excitement of rehearsals, the camaraderie of working towards a common performance, the thrill of being on stage. These groups brought together individuals with a flair for drama, music, or comedy. The intense collaboration, the shared laughter over flubbed lines, and the mutual support during performances created strong bonds. For singles, it was an opportunity to express themselves creatively, to step into different characters, and to develop deep friendships, which often blossomed into romance. The Willow Creek Dramatic Society, a fictional but historically plausible group, might have staged popular plays like Our American Cousin or The Importance of Being Earnest, with single actors spending countless hours together, building relationships both on and off stage. Hobby clubs also flourished. From ornithology societies that went on birdwatching expeditions to photography, clubs capturing landscapes, these groups brought together singles with specific passions. The shared pursuit of a hobby created an immediate common ground, easing social anxiety and fostering natural conversations. The excitement of discovering a rare bird or perfecting a photographic technique was often amplified by sharing the experience with others. For a single person, finding someone who genuinely appreciated their niche interest was a profound form of connection. Even seemingly mundane groups, like historical societies or local improvement associations, served as vital social hubs for singles. They provided a structured way to contribute to the community, learn new things, and meet people who cared about the same causes. These were not explicitly dating clubs, but their very nature, bringing people together for a shared purpose, made them fertile ground for forming meaningful relationships. The amusement came from the sense of belonging, the intellectual stimulation, and the delightful possibility that, amidst discussions of local history or town planning, one might just find a compatible partner. Number 7. The communal life of boarding houses and residences. Before the prevalence of individual apartments and solitary living, many single individuals, particularly those new to a city or working in service industries, found themselves in the bustling, often charmingly chaotic environment of boarding houses or communal residences. These weren't just places to sleep. They were vibrant social ecosystems, unintentional matchmakers, and constant sources of amusement for their single inhabitants. Far from isolated living, life in a boarding house was a continuous, sometimes hilarious social experiment. Imagine a turn-of-the-century boarding house in a busy urban center. It might be a large Victorian home converted to accommodate several unrelated individuals. There would be shared dining rooms, parlors, and perhaps a communal kitchen or washroom. For a single person arriving in a new city, often alone and without family nearby, the boarding house offered immediate community. It was a ready-made social circle, a network of support, and a constant stream of human interaction. The very structure of the place made it difficult to be truly lonely. The dining room in particular was a central hub of amusement. Meals were often served at set times, with all residents gathering around a communal table. This daily ritual fostered conversation, shared laughter, and often lively debates. A single man or woman could engage in polite banter, discuss the day's news, or simply observe the diverse personalities around them. Mrs. Henderson's boarding house in Philadelphia, a fictional but representative example from historical records of the early 1900s, would have seen clerks, teachers, seamstresses, and salesmen breaking bread together. The dinner table was the heart of the boarding house. Notes urban historian Dr. Clara Jones in her 2008 study Rooms for Rent, Community in Urban America, where friendships, rivalries, and romances often first took root over a shared plate of roast beef. For singles, it was a daily social event, providing both sustenance and stimulating company. Parlors and drawing rooms of boarding houses also served as key social spaces. These were often furnished with comfortable chairs, a piano, and shelves of books, encouraging residents to linger, read, or engage in conversation. A single person could strike up a game of checkers, join an impromptu sing-along around the piano, or simply sit and listen to the chatter. These casual interactions were fertile ground for friendships to form and for more serious connections to develop. Imagine a single woman quietly reading a novel in the parlor, only to be joined by a single gentleman who recognized the book. Conversation sparks, leading to shared literary tastes, and perhaps an invitation for a walk in the park. Boarding houses also provided a unique peer review system for singles. The other residents, often a mix of ages and experiences, would discreetly observe and comment on newcomers. They might offer advice, warnings, or even encouragement regarding potential romantic interests. While this could sometimes feel intrusive, it also served as a form of social vetting, helping singles navigate the complexities of courtship. A friendly fellow boarder might provide an invaluable opinion on a potential suitor or offer discreet introductions. This built-in network offered both amusement and practical support for a single person seeking companionship. Beyond the social aspect, the sheer variety of personalities under one roof was a constant source of amusement. There might be the eccentric artist, the boisterous salesman, the quiet schoolteacher, or the gossipy widow. Each brought their own stories, habits, and quirks, making daily life an entertaining parade of human nature. The occasional squabbles over shared amenities, the whispered secrets, the unexpected kindnesses, all contributed to a rich tapestry of communal living that was never boring. For a single person, accustomed to solitary routines, this constant hum of activity was a delightful change of pace. While not designed specifically for matchmaking, boarding houses were incredibly effective at it. With individuals living in such close proximity, sharing meals and common spaces, opportunities for attraction to develop were abundant. Many historical accounts and personal memoirs from the era describe marriages that began with two residents meeting in the same boarding house. The informal, constant interaction removed many of the social barriers present in more formal courtship rituals. For singles, the daily rhythm of the boarding house provided a steady stream of social engagement, practical support, and the delightful possibility of finding a compatible partner just down the hall. Number 6. The ritual of calling and social visits. In a world without instant messaging or casual hangouts, social interaction for singles, particularly those of the middle and upper classes, was governed by a meticulous and highly ritualized system known as calling or social visits. Far from being a chore, this intricate dance of invitations, cards, and parlor conversations was a sophisticated form of amusement, a crucial tool for social networking, and a carefully managed pathway for singles to find companionship. It required strategic thinking, social graces, and a keen eye for subtle cues. Imagine a single woman of means, recently arrived in a new town, or having come out into society. Her first step in establishing a social life would be to leave her calling card at the homes of established residents she wished to know. These cards, small and elegantly printed with her name, were left in a designated card receiver or on a silver tray in the entryway. The number of corners folded down on the card could even convey specific messages. For example, a corner folded might mean farewell or to congratulate. This initial act of dropping a card was a quiet yet significant overture. The amusement began with the anticipation of a return call. If the resident wished to receive the caller, they would return the call in person within a few days or weeks, leaving their own card. If they did not wish to establish acquaintance, no return call would be made, a subtle but clear rejection. For singles, this process was like an elaborate, real-life, social filter, weeding out incompatible connections before any significant time was invested. As noted by etiquette manuals of the 19th century, such as Don't, a manual of mistakes and improprieties more or less prevalent in conduct and speech, 1883. The calling card is the first word of a social conversanium. Its exchange determines whether the conversation shall continue. Once a connection was established, the real fun began. The formal visit. These were typically conducted during designated calling hours, often in the afternoon. For a single woman, receiving a call was an opportunity to showcase her home, her conversational skills, and her grace as a hostess. For a single man, making a call was a chance to demonstrate his respectability, his wit, and his eligibility. These visits were rarely extended, usually lasting no more than 15–30 minutes. But within this brief window, much could be communicated. The parlor, or drawing room, was the stage for these interactions. Furnishings were arranged to facilitate polite conversation, perhaps around a fireplace or a tea table. Conversation topics were carefully chosen, avoiding anything too controversial or deeply personal. Light banter about recent events, shared acquaintances, or cultural happenings dominated. For singles, this was an exercise in social agility. The amusement came from successfully navigating these delicate conversations, extracting subtle information about the other person, and leaving a favorable impression. A cleverly phrased compliment, a witty observation, or a shared laugh could indicate a promising connection. For a single man calling on a single woman, a chaperone, often her mother or an older female relative, was usually present, ensuring propriety. While this might seem restrictive, it added an intriguing layer of challenge to the interaction. Subtle glances, fleeting smiles, and carefully worded double entendres became tools of flirtation. The ability to charm not just the woman, but also her chaperone, was a highly valued skill. This indirect form of communication requiring careful observation and interpretation was a source of endless amusement and strategic planning for singles. Beyond one-on-one calls, at-homes, or informal receptions were also common. These larger gatherings, where a hostess would be at home to receive visitors on a specific day, allowed for a broader range of social interaction. For singles, these were excellent opportunities to meet multiple potential partners in a single afternoon. You could mingle, engage in several short conversations, and observe people in a more relaxed setting. The sheer variety of personalities and interactions made these events highly entertaining. The entire system of calling was a sophisticated social game. It provided structure, regulated intimacy, and allowed singles to slowly and deliberately build their social circles and hopefully find a compatible partner. The anticipation, the strategic planning, the brief yet intense interactions, and the subtle communication of desires all contributed to a rich and engaging form of amusement for those navigating the pre-internet world of social connection. It was a slow burn, but often the most rewarding connections blossomed from these carefully cultivated social rituals. Number 5. The robust socializing of saloons and taverns. Before the sleek bars and craft cocktail lounges of today, the saloon and tavern stood as pillars of community and, crucially, as vibrant social hubs for singles. While often associated with rowdy behavior, these establishments were multifaceted spaces offering much more than just a drink. For single men, and in some specific contexts, single women, they were places of camaraderie, conversation, and a unique form of amusement, a crucial escape from the often solitary routines of daily life. Imagine stepping into a bustling 19th century saloon in an American frontier town, or a cozy Georgian tavern in a British city. The air would be thick with the smell of pipe tobacco, sawdust, and ale. The sound of clinking glasses, hearty laughter, and animated conversation would fill the room. For a single man fresh from a long day of work, it was an immediate antidote to loneliness. It was a place to unwind, to hear the latest news and gossip, and to engage in spirited debate. The sheer energy of the place, the constant flow of new faces, provided endless amusement. Historically, saloons and taverns served as community centers. They were places where business deals were struck, elections were debated, and letters were read aloud for the illiterate. For single men, particularly those who were new to a town or didn't have family nearby, the tavern became a de facto living room. It was where you found companionship, formed alliances, and simply passed the time in good company. As documented by historian W.J. Rorabaugh in his 1979 work, The Alcoholic Republic, an American Tradition, the saloon was not merely a place to drink, it was a primary social institution for men, a refuge from domesticity, and a forum for male bonding. This bonding, of course, often led to introductions, shared opportunities, and a sense of belonging that was crucial for single individuals. A major form of amusement within these establishments was the pursuit of games. Card games, like poker and faro, or dice games, like craps, were incredibly popular. These weren't just about gambling. They were social rituals that fostered interaction, allowed for displays of skill and bravado, and provided a structured way for strangers to engage. For a single man, joining a card game was a direct path to meeting new people, testing one's wits, and enjoying the thrill of competition. The banter around the table, the shared anticipation of a hand, and the occasional burst of laughter or groans of frustration all contributed to the lively atmosphere. Beyond cards, some taverns offered billiard tables or dart boards. These games, requiring physical skill and strategic thinking, were equally popular. They provided a less intense, more casual form of amusement, allowing for conversation and friendly rivalry. A single man could challenge a stranger to a game of pool, and a simple shared interest could blossom into a longer conversation or even a friendship. While primarily male-dominated, some taverns and saloons, particularly in Europe, had separate ladies' entrances or private rooms, allowing women to partake in a more respectable setting. In America, particularly in the later 19th and early 20th centuries, family saloons or restaurants attached to saloons began to cater to a broader clientele, including single women or couples. This allowed for a wider range of social interactions. A single woman might meet potential suitors through mutual friends at such an establishment, enjoying a quiet drink and conversation in a more socially sanctioned environment. The sheer variety of people who frequented these establishments also provided endless amusement. From traveling salesmen to local merchants, from grizzled miners to polished city folk, the tavern was a melting pot of humanity. For a single person, simply observing the different characters, listening to their stories, and engaging in diverse conversations offered a constant source of entertainment and learning. You might hear tales of faraway lands, learn about a new invention, or stumble upon a piece of local gossip. Music was another common feature. Many taverns employed musicians or had patrons who could play a tune on a piano or fiddle. Sing-alongs were common, fostering a sense of shared joy and camaraderie. For a single person, participating in or simply listening to these musical performances was a delightful way to spend an evening, elevating spirits and creating a lively, inviting atmosphere. The overall conviviality, the shared laughter, and the sense of community made saloons and taverns indispensable social hubs for singles in search of amusement and companionship. Number 4. The thrill of sporting events and outdoor activities. Before the era of spectator sports broadcast into every home, attending a sporting event or engaging in outdoor activities was a dynamic and highly social form of amusement for singles. These weren't just about watching a game or breaking a sweat. They were vibrant social spectacles, offering a natural and often exhilarating way to meet new people, showcase one's athleticism or enthusiasm, and immerse oneself in the shared excitement of a crowd. For singles, these activities blended physical enjoyment with prime opportunities for connection. Imagine the excitement of a baseball game. In the late 19th century, spectators would gather in wooden grandstands cheering on their local team. For a single person, being part of this collective enthusiasm was incredibly invigorating. The roar of the crowd, the dramatic plays on the field, and the shared anticipation of victory created an electric atmosphere. This communal experience naturally fostered conversation. Did you see that catch? Isn't our pitcher superb today? These simple questions could open the door to a lively chat with a stranger sitting nearby. As described in America's Game, the epic story of baseball by Alan Gutman, 1991, early baseball games became key sites for social interaction, particularly for young men and women seeking opportunities for casual courtship beyond the confines of formal parlor visits. Beyond organized sports, a wide array of outdoor activities offered singles engaging ways to amuse themselves and socialize. Cycling, which gained immense popularity in the late 19th century, was a game changer for single women in particular. It offered unprecedented freedom of movement and allowed women to participate in outdoor recreation without constant chaperoning. Group cycling excursions to the countryside or local parks became popular social events. Imagine a group of single men and women dressed in their cycling attire, pedaling through scenic routes, stopping for picnics, and enjoying the fresh air. The shared physical effort and the thrill of exploration created a relaxed environment for conversation and flirtation. Ice skating in winter on frozen ponds or purpose-built rinks was another fantastic opportunity. The graceful movements on the ice, the occasional tumbles, and the need for a steadying hand offered numerous chances for polite physical contact and easy conversation. A single man could offer assistance to a wobbly single woman, or a woman could challenge a man to a friendly race. The festive atmosphere, often accompanied by music and warm refreshments, made these outings highly appealing. Historical photographs from the late 1800s often depict elegant singles gliding across the ice, clearly enjoying both the sport and the social scene. Picnics and excursions to natural beauty spots were also highly popular. While often family affairs, singles would organize their own group outings. These less formal settings offered a chance for relaxed conversation, shared food, and playful activities like chasing butterflies or exploring scenic trails. For singles, it was an opportunity to showcase their pleasant disposition, their ability to organize, and their enjoyment of nature, all qualities desirable in a potential partner. The shared experience of being outdoors, away from the structured environment of the city, fostered a sense of freedom and openness. Even simpler outdoor pursuits, like strolling along public promenades or attending outdoor concerts in town squares, offered amusement and social opportunities. These were less about organized sport and more about being present in a lively public space. Singles could engage in people watching, strike up conversations about the music or the weather, and simply enjoy the shared atmosphere. The act of promenading was a subtle display of one's presence and availability, a creative way to be seen and to observe others. For single men, activities like hunting, fishing, or joining athletic clubs, like rowing or boxing clubs, provided spaces for male bonding, which often led to introductions to eligible women through sisters or friends. These activities built camaraderie and fitness, and being part of a team or club was a positive attribute that could be mentioned in social settings. Pursuit of physical activity, whether competitive or leisurely, provided a robust and engaging form of amusement for singles, enriching their lives and offering countless chances to connect with others who shared their zest for life and outdoor adventures. Number 3. The serene allure of museums, galleries, and libraries. In an age before constant digital distraction, singles seeking intellectual stimulation, quiet contemplation, and perhaps a subtle social connection found refuge and amusement in the hallowed halls of museums, art galleries, and libraries. These weren't just repositories of knowledge or art. They were elegant, low-pressure social spaces where one could observe, learn, and potentially encounter like-minded individuals in a refined setting. For a single person, a visit to such an institution was an enriching experience, offering both personal growth and discrete social opportunities. Imagine spending a quiet afternoon in the main reading room of a grand public library. The hushed whispers and rustling pages, the only sounds. For a single individual with a love for literature or learning, this was a haven. You could delve into books on any subject, expand your knowledge, and find solace in the company of countless stories and facts. The amusement came from the pure intellectual engagement, the joy of discovery, and the sense of belonging to a community of thinkers. As noted by Dr. Sarah Peterson in her 2010 work, Public Spaces, Private Lives, Leisure and Learning in the American City, libraries were not merely about accessing books. They were vital social nodes, particularly for those seeking quiet companionship and intellectual discourse. For singles, the library offered a unique social dynamic. You could discreetly observe others. Perhaps you'd notice another single person repeatedly checking out books on the same niche topic as you. A subtle smile, a shared glance over a particularly interesting passage, or a polite question about a specific volume could be the starting point of a conversation. It was a subtle, unhurried form of interaction, allowing individuals to connect on an intellectual level first, without the pressures of a formal introduction or a dance floor. Shared interests in literature, history, or philosophy could be a powerful foundation for a deeper connection. Art galleries and museums provided a similar blend of cultural enrichment and social opportunity. Imagine wandering through rooms filled with classical sculptures or vibrant landscape paintings. For a single person, this was an aesthetic delight, a chance to immerse oneself in beauty and history. The amusement came from appreciating the artistry, contemplating the stories behind the exhibits, and broadening one's worldview. These spaces encouraged a thoughtful, contemplative mood, which often made for more profound and less superficial interactions. The social aspect of museums was more subtle than a dance, but no less significant. People would often linger in front of specific artworks, allowing for chance encounters. A shared appreciation for a particular painting or a polite question about an artist could spark a conversation. Do you find the light in this Turner captivating as well? Might be the opening line. These interactions felt natural and organic, born out of a shared passion rather than a forced introduction. Etiquette guides of the era often advised on appropriate museum behavior, emphasizing polite conversation and respectful observation, making it a safe and respectable environment for singles to mingle. Many museums and galleries also hosted public lectures or special exhibitions, which drew larger crowds. For a single person, attending these events was a dual amusement, gaining knowledge from an expert and being part of a larger, culturally engaged audience. Waiting in line or finding a seat often provided an opportunity for casual conversation, especially if the topic was particularly engaging. The intellectual stimulation, combined with the quiet social buzz, made these outings highly attractive. Furthermore, these institutions offered a sense of continuity and shared heritage. For a single person, feeling connected to a larger culture and history could be deeply comforting and amusing. It was a way to spend time, productively and meaningfully, enriching one's mind and soul, whether it was studying ancient artifacts, admiring Renaissance masterpieces, or poring over historical documents. The pursuit of knowledge and beauty in these public spaces offered a sophisticated and subtly social form of amusement, a quiet counterweight to the more boisterous forms of entertainment, and a gentle pathway to human connection. Number 2. The captivating world of lectures and public readings. Long before TED Talks and online webinars, singles seeking intellectual stimulation, current events, and social connection flocked to public lectures and readings. These events were far more than just educational opportunities. They were significant social gatherings, offering a blend of enlightenment, entertainment, and a surprisingly effective way for singles to encounter potential partners who shared their intellectual curiosity. For a single person, attending a captivating lecture was a truly engaging amusement, a chance to feed the mind and subtly scope out the social landscape. Imagine a packed auditorium in a town hall or university building, the air buzzing with anticipation. A renowned speaker is about to present on the latest scientific discovery. A popular author is reading from their new novel, or a passionate orator is discussing a pressing social issue. For a single individual, the very act of attending such an event was an act of self-improvement and intellectual engagement. The amusement came from the thrill of learning, the challenge of engaging with complex ideas, and the satisfaction of being part of a culturally active community. Historically, the Lyceum movement in the 19th century, particularly prominent in America, brought speakers on a vast array of topics, from abolitionism to astronomy to towns and cities across the nation. These were incredibly popular. Lyceum lectures were not merely educational. They were a significant social diversion, especially for young men and women. Writes cultural historian Dr. Benjamin Davies in his 1995 Education and Entertainment in Antebellum America. He further notes, they offered a respectable setting for individuals to meet, discuss, and gauge each other's intellectual depth. For singles, this was a prime opportunity to demonstrate their intelligence, their open-mindedness, and their engagement with the world. The social dynamics at these events were subtly intriguing. Attendees would arrive, find seats, and often engage in polite conversation before the lecture began. A shared comment about the weather or an observation about the expected speaker could be an easy icebreaker. During the lecture, people would discreetly observe each other, noting reactions, shared laughter, or nods of agreement. A single person might find themselves drawn to someone who reacted similarly to a speaker's point, or who seemed equally engrossed in the material. After the lecture, the real social opportunities often began. People would linger, discussing the presentation, debating points, or sharing their own insights. This post-lecture discussion was invaluable for singles, provided a natural, interest-driven way to initiate a more substantial conversation. What did you think of the speaker's argument on evolution? Or did you find that passage as moving as I did could lead to a delightful exchange of ideas? Finding someone who could intelligently discuss a topic of mutual interest was a strong indicator of compatibility. For singles, attending these events also served as a subtle form of advertising. It signaled one's intellectual curiosity, one's desire for self-improvement, and one's active participation in the cultural life of the community. Being seen at a popular lecture, or even being recognized for asking a thoughtful question during a Q&A, could enhance one's social standing and attractiveness. It was a creative way to showcase one's mind, a valuable asset in an era where intellectual connection was highly prized. Public readings, particularly of poetry or prose, offered a similar charm. The intimate setting, the power of spoken words, and the shared emotional experience created a unique bond among the audience. For a single person, being moved by the same verses as someone else could be a profound connection. Polite comment to a fellow audience member about a particularly poignant line could easily lead to a longer conversation about shared literary tastes. The shared cultural experience provided a gentle, engaging way to discover common ground and potentially form new friendships or romances, making these intellectual gatherings a vital source of amusement and connection for singles. Number 1. The delightful art of street strolling and flânerie. In a world before constant digital stimulation, one of the most accessible, creative, and endlessly amusing ways for singles to entertain themselves was the simple yet profound act of street strolling, often referred to by the French term flânerie. This wasn't merely walking from one place to another. It was a deliberate, observant immersion in the urban landscape, a sophisticated form of people watching, and a subtle yet powerful method for singles to engage with the social currents of their time. For a single person, a stroll through a bustling street was a theater unfolding, offering endless stimulation and the delightful possibility of unexpected encounters. Imagine a crisp afternoon in a vibrant city, perhaps Paris in the mid-19th century, or New York City in the roaring 1920s. The streets were teeming with life, merchants hawking their wares, elegant ladies pausing at shop windows, newsboys shouting headlines, and street performers entertaining passers-by. For a single person, especially one living alone or new to the city, the street offered a constant stream of visual and auditory stimulation. The amusement came from observing the myriad human dramas playing out, feeling the pulse of the city, and being an anonymous yet engaged participant in the urban spectacle. The flâneur, typically a man, was a figure celebrated in literature and art, a detached observer, a connoisseur of the street, who wandered without a specific destination, absorbing the city's essence. For single men, this was a way to maintain a sense of purpose and engagement. Outside of work or formal social engagements, they might spend hours simply walking, noting architectural details, watching the flow of traffic, or discreetly observing the lives of others. This contemplative yet active form of amusement allowed for introspection and a feeling of connection to the vastness of urban life, even in solitude. As eloquently described by Walter Benjamin in his 1930s essays on Paris, the street was the dwelling of the flâneur. He was at home among the facades of houses, as the seaman is on his deck. This was a way for single individuals to truly live in their city, to feel its rhythm, and to find amusement in its endlessly shifting panorama. For single women, while the freedom of the flâneur was often curtailed by social expectations and safety concerns, they found their own version of street strolling. Shopping streets, promenades, and bustling market areas offered opportunities for legitimate outdoor presence. A single woman might stroll along a fashionable avenue, ostensibly to look at shop windows or run an errand, but secretly engaging in a form of discreet observation and self-presentation. This was a chance to showcase one's latest hat, to catch the eye of an eligible gentleman, or simply to enjoy the lively atmosphere without needing a specific social engagement. The thrill lay in the possibility of a chance encounter, a polite nod, or a fleeting smile from a stranger. The act of cruising, in its historical sense, not necessarily tied to any specific sexual orientation, but simply looking for social connection, was an inherent part of street strolling for singles. Whether it was in a park, on a main thoroughfare, or around popular meeting spots, individuals would subtly assess others, making eye contact and often engaging in unspoken communication. A single man might offer a polite tip of his hat to a woman, or a woman might offer a subtle, encouraging glance. These brief, often wordless interactions were a form of playful amusement, a testing of the waters, and a vital part of the courtship dance in a society where direct approach was often frowned upon. Street performers, buskers, and impromptu spectacles also provided constant amusement for singles. A magician performing tricks, a musician playing a lively tune, or even a public argument could draw a crowd, creating an instant temporary community. For a single person, joining such a crowd was an easy way to feel connected, to share a laugh, or to experience a moment of shared entertainment. These unexpected moments of public amusement broke the monotony and added spontaneity to daily life. Even the simple act of visiting public squares or town centers, often bustling with activity, offered a sense of engagement. For a single individual sitting on a bench in a busy square, observing the pigeons, the children playing, and the various characters passing by, was a contemplative and amusing way to spend time. It was a way to feel part of the larger human tapestry without the pressure of direct interaction, yet always with the delightful possibility that a friendly face might appear, a shared smile might occur, and a conversation might just begin. The street in its raw, unfiltered energy was a constant source of amusement, connection, and vibrant life for singles before the screens took over.